Hey, it's Greg here with Nihon Lounge. Today, I am going to be talking about Duolingo. As someone who lived in Japan a long time ago and was getting back into remembering and retaining and getting my Japanese back, so to speak, this was the most popular app, and I wanted to check it out and see how well the app helped me in regaining so much of what I had learned so long ago. And that's going to be the topic of today's video. This is Nihon Lounge. All right. So for those of you that don't know, Duolingo is one of the most popular apps in the world. And by the way, this is not a sponsored video or anything like that. This is just my interaction with the app. It's not even really necessarily meant to be a review or a full-fledged review or anything like that. It was just, I thought, I've been using this app. My kids have used the app. My wife's used the app. And I want to kind of give my thoughts on how good I think it is on some level. As someone who spoke Japanese, pretty well a long time ago, still decent at it, but how good is this thing really? That's what I wanted to get into today. Before I do that, please be sure to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, all the good stuff that helps in the YouTube algorithms. But let's get straight into this. So I lived in Japan as a Mormon missionary a long time ago and learned Japanese. I studied in a what they call an MTC, a missionary training center. We learned Japanese fairly immersively for a couple months, and then they send you straight to Japan and you just talk Japanese every day. And immersion is certainly one of the best and most effective means of learning a new language. So I spoke fairly well back when I was in Japan. And over the years, over the last 20 some odd years, 24 years, 23 years, I guess, since I've been in Japan, I thought, okay, I'm kind of curious what it's like now getting back into the language. And over the years, I'd teach some of my kids a little bit of Japanese here and there. I'd go on months of trying to remember and retain Japanese, and then just kind of going back down to where I'm just too busy with work and life gets in the way. And, for a long time, up until I would say the last, 5 years, it was a little bit more difficult. Okay. I live in Idaho. And so there's not a lot of Japanese people in Idaho. Okay. There's some states like California and Hawaii and Washington and a couple others that have higher populations of Japanese people. But for the most part, Idaho doesn't have a lot that I can just interact with consistently. And one of the hardest parts about language is that if you're not speaking it, then you can become fairly good at listening to it, okay, and understanding what maybe something you're watching, or if I were to hear a video or an audio file or hear somebody, I think we went to Craters of the Moon a couple years ago, and there were some people speaking Japanese, and I could listen and I could kind of understand, some of what they were saying. So the listening and all that kind of stuff can only take you so far. And I wanted something that could kind of keep me on track and keep me engaged in learning the language. And so I was looking for an app, and I saw that Duolingo was I think at the time was the most downloaded app. And I've had it on my phone for, I think my streak, okay, the infamous streak, is about 400 days. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll download this. We'll see how good it is and see how much it helps me, because I am on a journey to try and hopefully take the N5 or N4 test. A lot of people tell me I could probably just go do N3 and probably pass, but I'm super nervous about test taking. So either way, I was told that if you do the Japanese language course on Duolingo, that N5 and N4 typically aren't going to be as big of an issue, but definitely not for the N5. And I thought, okay, here, I'll do this app and we'll try it. And so some of the good things are, it does keep you engaged. And certainly the streak thing keeps you engaged on the app. And that's probably what it's designed to do. The lessons are super fast for the most part, which I think is important for people learning a new language, especially one as complicated and as difficult as Japanese. Japanese is one of the most difficult languages for English learners typically. Okay, it's not necessarily for everybody, but for most people, Japanese is one of the toughest. And because the writing system on top of the language structure and all that kind of stuff just makes it more complicated. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna just try. So it does. I think the learning the hiragana and katakana is good. I think that it's helpful on Duolingo to kind of get that base set. Again, if you're starting out learning Japanese, you have to learn hiragana and katakana. I highly recommend that. It might take you a little bit longer before you start getting into other stuff, but learning those helps you give you a really good base. Okay, so Duolingo is helpful in that way because you do a couple lessons and then it kind of forces you to start learning the hiragana primarily. They don't really necessarily force you into the katakana as much, which I think they should probably do. So that I didn't really need that because I could still read hiragana. The lessons, when it got into learning the actual sentences and words and grammar structure, that kind of stuff, I would say that it was helpful on some level. And as someone who had spoken the language, I still knew a lot of the grammar structure and understood all that kind of stuff. Part of the reason I was using the Duolingo was somewhat for the kanji and somewhat for vocabulary, because there was just so much vocabulary that I didn't use as a missionary as often as I would some of the stuff that they have in Duolingo where, it's like college type stuff. And you're like, well, I didn't really learn that. The one part I will say about Duolingo that I did not find helpful is that the lessons are kind of you go in the order it tells you to go. And there are some apps, from what I understand, and I think I used one a long time ago, I don't even remember what it was, that you could kind of jump around to whatever you wanted to learn, not what Duolingo was telling you have to learn. Okay, so my kids, for instance, they don't really care, and I honestly don't really care to learn about, talking to people about my college life. I already graduated college. I don't need that anymore. My kids don't need that. So that kind of stuff I don't think was super helpful. Again, I think the biggest benefit potentially of Duolingo is it does keep you engaged. There's the leaderboards that kind of force you to go, okay, there's that mentality that it puts you in that you don't want to lose. You don't want to get demoted into the lower league. So you want to do enough to keep going. If you're not doing that and you're just keeping up your streak, then honestly, it's a giant waste of time. Okay. You're not really going to get any real value of just doing one lesson a day, in my opinion. It's just, you're never going to get there, especially with something as complicated as Japanese. You have to do a lot more immersive stuff. And the one, I guess, the biggest glaring weakness, in my opinion, on the whole thing is that there's not very little speaking engagement unless you're going to pay even more. Now, Duolingo has a free version, but to be honest, it's kind of like those games that are like, the game is free, but good luck really getting anywhere unless you're paying. Okay. And I don't mind paying. Look, it's complicated. It certainly has a whole bunch of tools and all that kind of stuff. And I think they really are trying to push people into Duolingo Max, which does allow you to speak. And that's where I have my weakness is because I just don't get enough speaking practice. I'm not living in Japan anymore. And there's, again, not a lot of Japanese people around here for me to try and speak with. And so I think Duolingo is, they want to do Duolingo Max. So you're already paying a decent chunk of money for the app. And now they want to do another add-on, which is Duolingo Max. Again, this is all how gaming and subscriptions on Netflix and Amazon, all that stuff, they're all doing the same format, right? Where it's like, buy the base thing. And oh, by the way, if you don't want ads, do this. And if you want this feature, you got to pay more money. And then by the time you're done, you're spending like $300 on something. So it's not that expensive, but you get the point. And so the Duolingo Max, they run it for free once in a while. And so I have used it when it's free. I don't know. I don't. I mean, it's okay. Like it's probably better than nothing. But the where I think a lot of people, including myself, would like is some feedback on, does it even sound native? Do I have the accent and the tone, the pronunciation? Is all that stuff accurate? Because if not, I'm not really moving forward with what I want to learn with Japanese. And honestly, there's some listening exercises on there, but what I've found most helpful, okay, is someone again who I can't interact with a lot of Japanese people. One of my favorite things to do is watch things like, there's a YouTube channel I found just randomly called Japanese with Shun. And Shun does listening practice. And it is so awesome, okay, because he slows it down to N5 level. So it's, if I was going to speak English, then I am going to speak this, right? He's doing the same thing, but he's doing it in Japanese. And so you're able to kind of get the flow of the language a lot better. So I really appreciate videos like that. And they're free. They're free to listen to. So there's there's a number of YouTubers who do that kind of stuff for Japanese learners. It's fantastic. I love it. To me, that's one of the best supplements. And he does offer paid stuff that you can do. Again, I have no affiliation with Shun. I haven't even taken a class with him, but I told my wife, I actually think I want to do one of his boot camps where there is shadowing and some communication back and forth. You can do one-on-one lessons. To me, that is one of the best ways, is to learn from someone, and really you have to speak. That I can't stress enough the importance of speaking. And is Duolingo Max paying that much money to do that little bit, and how much it costs every month really worth it? I don't think so. I don't think it's as beneficial as maybe once a month spending, $45 or whatever with a native speaker and going back and forth and getting feedback from them on what you can and can't do. That's the only way you're going to become more comfortable, is by speaking the language. So that's kind of my thoughts on using Duolingo. Again, I think there is some benefit, but you really got to do more than just the little tiny, 3 minutes a day that they want you to do at the very least. I think you really got to do a lot of it. And it's just not enough by itself. You need to find something that you can use to speak to supplement your learning, because ultimately the speaking is where that expertise and that fluency is ultimately going to come from. So anyway, I hope you found this video beneficial. Again, I'm not trying to, say that Duolingo is horrible or that it's fantastic. I think it's probably somewhere in between. There's some good in it. There's certainly some weaknesses that it has, but overall, I think as someone who's had been away from Japanese for a long time, I have found it beneficial. I'm probably close to where I'm like, okay, I could probably do without it now. Between taking some private lessons and watching YouTube videos with Shun or some of the other YouTubers, I think I'll get to where I want to go. So anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, please give me a thumbs up, and also like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, this is Nihon Lounge.